Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, Chapter 119. When we last left our heroes, everything ended. Natsu and Suzaku's unison raid took out Doggermag once and for all. He left some parting words about the age of man being over, or the seeds for the end of the age of man, which ties into a lot of what Selene has been saying on ending the age of dragons. But anyway, everyone lives, and Fairy Tail and Diabolos enter into a kind of truce, allowing everyone to sort of reconvene back at the Diabolos Guild Hall. There's a bit of there's, still some tension in the air, but they're mostly kind of getting along well. It's all a little sudden, but I've heard something that this chapter might de-sudden some of that. But anyway, with all that, Suzaku questions Fairy Tail about what they plan to do with Selene due to the nature of the 100 Years Quest. And there's some pushback for Selene and her whole motivations, but also, there's just a bit of, Natsu has this moment of, it's not about stopping the dragons, it's about, because they're dragons, it's about looking in their hearts and determining who must be stopped and who can be helped. Which feels a little rote, and we should have gotten that a while ago, but whatever, we're through it now. So let's dive into, Chapter 119, Hanging Out in the Nude. Because that's what we're doing now. I mean, it's a bath chapter, it's a Fairy Tail staple. After the fight comes a nice hot bath. And our picture here is Lucy, Urza, and Wendy in the changing room. Thankfully, Mashima leaves Wendy pretty much fully dressed. Because, for all of my complaints of fan service, he's always been good at not looting Wendy. That shouldn't be a thing I have to specify, a thing I have to praise him for. But he always does. He's always good with Wendy. Anyway, we open in the Diabolos Hot Springs. Wow! Amazing is Lucy and Wendy and Carla. And again, Wendy is still relatively tasteful here. I'm not gonna keep harping on this, but it is good that Mashima is not... keeps Wendy 14. Or I think she's 15 by now. Maybe 16. Because there's been 2 one-year time skips. The point being, decent. Good. Thumbs up. The guild's a public bath inside? And Carla just tells Wendy, our guild has that and a pool, And we see Kiria's already in the bath. Yo, yesterday's enemies are still today's enemies, but let's kick back and relax anyway. Which does lead to the question, are they really at peace now? Because Kiria, that line there seems to be Kiria being like, we're not really friends, but we're not, actively trying to kill each other right now. But Lucy questions, I think you got it mixed up, but thanks. And then we see Urza, hair shining, with stars in her eye. Oh, right, her hair's returned. Right, she cut her hair in the fight with Misaki. Is the point of the hair shining. And Misaki comments, oh my, I see your hair grew back quickly. And it's Misaki, is that Kiria? And Urza. Which is weird, because I don't see Lucy and Wendy in this scene. But yeah, I think it is Kiria. But Misaki comments, oh my, I see your hair grew back quickly. And Urza notes, Lucy has a splendid hairdresser among her friends. Meaning cancer. I do wish, though, that occasionally Mashima would let someone keep their dramatic haircut. Because he did this when Wendy chopped off her hair at the height of Tartaros. He did this now with Urza. He got rid of Natsu's post-time skip cut in the build-up to Avatar. I wish occasionally Mashima would just let a hair change stay. It's a recurring thing with him. I wish he'd just stop doing it. And Misaki comments, they must be an incredible hairdresser if they can grow hair. And Kiria snaps, yeah, if they existed. Which might be a bit of a continuing feud with her and Lucy after their fight, maybe? I don't know. But Misaki comments, about your hair. I'm sorry for not realizing how important it was to you. But Urza tells her, no, it was nothing. We were in a battle, so there's no need to apologize. And Misaki gets up and turns to Urza. Would you let me wash your hair? It's my specialty. And Urza gets a little hot under the collar there. Sure. And Misaki Misaki's about to cut it again, isn't she? Like, that feels like her magic pose. Thankfully, with all of the R-rated bits tastefully smoked up. Or no, I'm not in... Oh, because I'm trying to remember exactly how Azure Dimension worked. But it seems to be manipulating things. Because she's like... We see, like, her hair sort of fans out. I don't know, it's frustrating, I can't remember exactly how Misaki's power works. I had the same question back in the previous chapter, with her, like, stopping the stones, right? Let me see. I'm looking through her wiki ability. There's, like, a wave blast is part of it. Oh yeah, the ability to manipulate space similar to spatial magic, being able to levitate and control objects in an invisible blast that disperses her target into pieces with a wave of her hand. So yeah, it's spatial magic that also comes with its own spatial dimension, is how it works. Okay, I remember now. It's been a while. Anyway, so with that spatial magic, she is, extending or spreading out Urza's hair, summoning, like, soap suds to her, and just, like, cleaning her right then and there. As Urza's happy with this. And Misaki tells her, you're young, so you need to keep your skin clean. And it seems to be getting there's a little bit of a weird, like, sexual vibe with this whole Urza and Misaki dynamic. We see it earlier, we saw it last chapter with the girlie's heart emoji, that Misaki put into her speech. We see it in this bit with, on page 5, as Urza gets a little, like, blushed when Misaki steps out of the bath. And now we see it here as she's, like, overtaken by the soap suds. Oh, what a feeling. And Misaki turns to Lucy. Care to give it a try? Nah, I'll pass. Which also brings to mind the torture massage from Eden Zero, with Rebecca. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. But Kiria comes up behind her. I'll give you a wash. Shocking Lucy, kya! And pushes away, tries to protect herself. I said I'm fine. I can do it myself. Huh. And Kiria, with her blade magic, cuts the towel to ribbons. Which is just... I mean, I was never going to be a big fan of this chapter. I think anyone who's been watching these videos long enough... I've been covering Fairy Tail on a regular basis for like 5 years. Y'all know I'm not a big fan of this sort of chapter. Like at least the last one with Brandish after the Alderaan stuff at least had some like good comedy attached. This is just it's just horny. It's just horny for horny's sake. This feels like, at least so far, maybe we'll get some like important stuff later, it feels like it could have been a Nomake, and nothing would have been lost. But Kiria tells her, relax. I didn't cut your skin. I'm real good at washing. With dirty skin, I go to the blemish source and cut it. And Lucy, still covering herself again, just screams, Kya! And she uses that power on Lucy's back. Take that! And that! Wait. It hurts, but... And I guess it does the job. And she turns to Wendy. And calls out to her, hey! Flat chest. Which, like, that is a child. That is a... I think I called Wendy 16 a second ago. I want to retract that. I think I mistook her current age for her original age. I think she was 14... I think she was 12 at the start. And is 14 now. Though I'll do a quick little wiki search. Yeah, she was 12 at the start. I thought she was 14 at the start for a second. But still, that is still a child. Get over here so I can wash you. And Wendy thankfully pays no attention. It feels good, doesn't it, Carla? And Carla looks at her. You're pretending you didn't hear her, aren't you? Which, like, good. Thank you, Wendy. Don't get involved in this shit. And then in walks Selene. Healed. Barely covered, as is the nature of hanging out in the nude, bringing her own, like, bamboo backdrop, which is a nice little bit. The moon expands when she's here, as she's, like, the moon dragon. And Lucy notes, Selene, Also, I just noticed at some point she got the Diabolos guild mark on her abdomen, which is news to me. I don't think we've seen. I mean, I don't think we've seen her abdomen like that before, so that definitely is new. But Kyria questions, "Your wounds are all better?" And Selene tells her, "Don't underestimate a dragon's ability to heal." And then Wendy, just like I did, notes, "A guild mark? So you really did join Diabolos." And Selene just sort of leaves it at that, as Misaki turns to her guildmaster. "Shall I wash your body?" "If you please, Misaki." And Misaki puts Selene through the exact same power that Urza just dealt with. But we see Urza, speaking of Urza, she's very, very sort of tense around Selene's entrance. And Kyria laughs upon seeing Lucy also tense at the appearance of their old enemy. "Don't be so on edge." And Selene, as she gets in the bath, tells the group, "I wanted to have a nice leisurely talk with you all at least once." Wendy and Carla are also not really being leisurely right now. But Urza tells her, "If it's a talk you want, it doesn't need to be a place like this. Let's all gather in one spot." And Selene just points down, "If you mean the gentlemen, they should be able to hear me through my gate." And she's apparently done an aqua era to the men inside the water of the men's bath. We can't really see through it, but you can still hear it. As we see in the men's bath, Natsu questions, "What the? There's a voice coming from the bath! It's Selene's voice!" And Gajil questions, we're connected by a gate? And Gray, with his unmentionables, tactfully hit him with one of those bamboo things. "What the hell is she doing?" And Lux is asking the most important question, "And why do it when we're all in the bath?" Well, I mean, the real reason is because this is Fairy Tail and Mashima wanted the bath chapter, because it's been a couple years since then. But yeah, why do it, Selene? And Lily questions, "We don't have to be in a place like this to talk, do we?" But Selene tells them all, "A place like this is fine. It's important to socialize in the nude, isn't it?" And Gray, being Gray, is on board with that one. When you put it like that. And Gajil snaps, "You're ass naked all year long, aren't ya?" But Happy calls in, "Talk about what?" And Selene finally gets down to business, says, "Let me say this first. I do not regret anything I've done, nor do I intend to apologize." Alright, okay. I'm glad we're starting off strong, Selene. Full on, I regret nothing. All the people I hurt, that was fine. And Urza questions, admitting it so soon. "Of course. I did what I had to do to survive." And Lucy's not letting up. "You mean how you ruined Elantir?" "It wasn't just Elantir. I've distorted more worlds than I can count until now. The more I distort a world, the more I can see its other face." Okay. I mean, I'm not sure that's quite an excuse for all of the acts of destruction we both saw on Elantir and are implied by that statement. Even more dimensions that we've never even heard of until now, that are also left ruined by Selene. But Wendy asks, "A world's other face?" "It's the power hidden in that world." And that gets Natsu's attention to the point that he, dunks his head in the water to try to get closer to the gate. "What power is that?" "A weapon for defeating the 5 dragon gods. That's what I've been looking for all along." And Lucy calls back to her older troops. "And Mimi and the rest supported you too?" I love that she just doesn't know anyone but Mimi. She never met, she never really interacted with Yoko or Hakane. It was just Mimi for her. "They were nothing more than my troops in Elantir. Incidentally, I used a gate to break them out of prison." At the beginning, or have they been freed now? Are they back? And Happy questions, "Huh? Natsu? Where do you go?" Meaning we're about to get Natsu popping up on the other side of the women's bath. You all know it. We all know it. But Selene goes on, "Ironically, the power I sought was in this world." And Urza, I'm saying questions a lot, but there's a lot of questioning going on here. Urza's line, "Was it in that labyrinth?" "More precisely, it was the Sight Dragon's heart sealed within the labyrinth that knew where it was." Sight? I thought he was like the law dragon. Where is sight dragon coming from? But Wendy's still confused, but the heart was destroyed by the earth dragon god, wasn't it? And Carla comments, so in the end, the location of that power remains unknown. But Lucy brings up a good point. But doesn't Mr. Elefseria also know where that power is? And Elefseria appears. We don't see where he appears. I'm guessing it's going to be the women's bath. Unfortunately, I do not. Oh no! He's in the men's bath. Okay, good for him. Shocking Gajeel, Lily, and Gray. It's the geezer! How'd he get here? And Gray points out, aren't you hurt? And Mr. Crow, who, one of these days I will finally remember his name. Thanks to you all, he's doing quite well. And Happy comments, I guess there's honor in coming to the men's bath safely. Which, yeah, given some of Elefseria's earlier gags, yeah, that's fair. But Elefseria pauses before speaking to Selene. Never did I imagine a time would come where I would speak with one of the 5 dragon gods. Same here. I never thought I would speak with you either. And yep, Natsu has fallen through the gate, and looks up. What the? There's a lot of butts up there! And we all know whose butts they are. Interrupting the very serious conversation between Elefseria and Selene, as Elefseria questions, you haven't forgotten how many innocent people you've killed, have you? And Selene snaps back, the feeling is mutual. How many innocent dragons have you killed? And Lucy sort of stares at Selene in this fight, and then we see Kiria and Misaki avoiding this conversation as the ones who ate a bunch of innocent dragons. Which, actually, hold on. Because the way that's setting up, right? The innocent dragons that you killed, and then the ones who ate them, the 2 of them ate dragons that George killed. Or Jorg, whatever his name was. They didn't eat dragons that Elefseria... Well, actually, we don't know anything about Elefseria. We don't know how many dragons he killed or not. I don't know. But Selene just comments, that's no longer an issue. I guess with both sides having committed a lot of atrocities, I suppose, the hatchet's been buried. But Gajeel questions, shouldn't the war between humans and dragons have ended 400 years ago? And Selene ignores him. You and I are in the same boat, aren't we, Elefseria? And I love the imagery here, with, like, them being on opposite sides of the gate, with Elefseria being, like, upside down, is a nice little touch. You think I accept that coming from you? And Selene just snaps. Then why is it that only humans may kill dragons? Which, like, all of Fairy Tail freezes. And this is so weird, given Selene's whole deal wanting to kill the dragons herself. Like, Selene's a character that just feels confusing, even in this moment of, like, you know, the part where we work out what her whole deal is. It still just feels like, what is her deal? You know, she says she's after the dragon gods, that every world she distorted was about finding the power to defeat the other dragon gods. She tells Diabolos when she first appears to them, when she first becomes their master, that she wants to rid the world of the last remaining dragons and enter in a world of humanity, where she can live as an ordinary person. But also here, she's outraged. This doesn't feel fake. She's outraged that Elefseria thinks that it's okay to kill dragons, the thing she wants to do. Maybe there's a piece we're missing here. I don't know. But all of Fairy Tail freezes. We see Wendy, Gray and Gajeel, Urza, Lucy, and then Lucy starts to laugh. Just like, you know, breaks down laughing, and Selene is furious. Tell me, what's so funny, girl? And Lucy apologizes. It's not like that. I'm sorry. Someone's tickling my feet out here. Here's a Natsu gag. Knock it off! And then Natsu comes up for air in the middle of the women's bath, commenting, it really is connected. And Lucy just yells, Natsu! As the girls all scream, Kya! You damn pervert! Such a scoundrel! And Urza tries to calm them down. Well, let's just calm down. Natsu is a friend of mine. And the 3 of them snap, that's not the problem here! And Selene sees this and starts to laugh herself as Lucy, like, gives a Lucy chop to Natsu. Men, women, humans, and dragons have their differences, but at least they're able to talk. Listen to what I'm about to say, Elefseria. It's for your 100-year wish as well. To be continued. So, I see why this chapter in its entirety can't be an omake. I can see, though, when the anime reaches this part, I can see them doing this, like, when I saw that title, hanging out in the nude, and was, like, vaguely aware, I seen the Reddit something about, like, this being a bathing chapter, I was reminded of 355. The infamous, like, immediately pre-Tartaros chapter that people were convinced was a death knell for the series, that, it would always be so horny at all times and would never be able to, like, ramp back, hold back on the horniness for its plot, which we all found out was just not true by the events of the manga, when they were able to hold back on the horniness for the sake of the plot. But it does feel like that kind of chapter. This chapter doesn't really need to be in the bath, with a very few, like, because when the anime adapted 355, it was not in the bath. The brief moment of Lucy, Urza, Wendy in the bath, and they were like, let's get out and see what else is going on. And that whole bit of antics was like in like a barbecue or something that changed the optics to be much better. Than the anime version. That chapter is infinitely superior to the mangas. Even if I never thought the manga was like the death knell for the series, people thought it was at the time. But enough about that decade-old rant. On to the actual thing we're talking about here. With that tangent aside, I should say, I can see the anime just cutting the bath. There's a few things that might be lost by losing the bath here. Mainly Selene's whole bit at the end about, like, despite our differences, we can still talk. But I don't think that this information needs to be conveyed via bath scene. And that's sort of where I stand. Like, that sort of sums up. I don't know why my thoughts are so weird right now. I don't know why I'm not really, like, I feel like I'm not putting my thoughts together in a good way for this chapter. Even more than the Eden Zero chapter, where I was just like, I don't know what I'm thinking. Here I'm just like, I'm not saying anything right. My point is, let me collect my thoughts. The bath antics I'm not big on, and I've never been big on them, and I knew I was not going to be big on them when I read Hanging Out in the Nude. But I do think that the information we learn here, this conversation between Elefseria and Selene, is really interesting. I like this idea of that ancient conflict between humans and dragons being, we never really spent that much time on it. We know a little bit from Irene and from Acnologia, but this idea that, like, that both sides, like, it's a typical thing in a war story, that, like, both sides feel justified to continue the conflict by the death and destruction the other side has caused in the general run of a war. And it's the sort of thing that the Dragon King Festival, we never really saw that explored very much. Like, our brief little glimpses of it in Acnologia's backstory and Irene's backstory never really presented itself, like, as that kind of war story. Not even really as a war story at all. And so Selene, with Selene here, we get to actually see that sort of how she felt in this war between humans and dragons. Elefseria is an interesting piece, though, because Elefseria is only, a couple hundred years, like, not quite 200 years old. He looks around 80 or so, and, like, he's spent 100 years since his age sort of stopped. So he's probably pushing 200, but nowhere close to 400. And so I'm curious how exactly he ties into, like, how many dragons did he kill? How many dragons made it to Giltena? We know enough that there are dragon eaters, a whole class of people who ate dragons to get their powers. Is Elefseria involved in that? Is that what the ones who ate them bit could be referring to? Or is it just like, Selene's mad about the death of dragons at the hands of humans, and Misaki and Kiria absolutely contributed to that. It's a little unclear there. Might be a translation thing. I'm not sure. But that conflict is very interesting, and I'm very curious to see where Mashima is taking that. That's what I'm really excited for next chapter. Whereas this chapter, you know, it started that, but also there's the mixed bag of the whole bathing scene, the whole hanging out in the nude. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me, which I sort of figured going in. But there are parts I really liked. I really hope to explore that concept of the war in the next chapter. But you know, it was horny. It was horny. It was very horny. Not in like the Eden Zero way, but in a very sort of fairy tale kind of way. So with that said, let's leave this video off here. I hope you all like the what are words? What are words? I completely flopped that. I'm gonna leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or, you know, do whatever makes you happy, you know? And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!